standing strong and tall. Yeah, this is the bovine coming on the air, sharing the stories of the folks who care. Profiles of passion, voices of the trade, dairy strong legends being made. Yeah, this is the bovine coming on the air, sharing the stories of the folks who care. Profiles of passion, voices of the trade.
Welcome back to The Deep Dive.
Powered by the bovine.
So today's deep dive it's fundamentally different. We're sort of pulling off the main highway of, financial analysis and data trends. And we're taking a hard turn onto this back road, one that's paved with grit and faith and, frankly, just stubborn human persistence.
Yeah.
We're not breaking down market futures today. We're not analyzing the latest genomic data.
No indices.
No arguing about indices. Nope. We're telling stories, 3 of them, 3 distinct paths to mastery about real farms, real people, and what that word excellence, what it really costs.
And a fair warning to everyone listening, especially if you've poured your life into a vision that sometimes feels, impossible. This one hit me right in the gut.
Oh, me too.
We talk a lot about the metrics of success, but today it's about the emotional currency. We've pulled together the threads of 3 incredibly powerful stories.
They're so different. So different. We're talking about a Saskatchewan farmer, Michael Lovich. His hands were shaking so badly at the biggest show in the world that he couldn't even hold his phone after preparing for years.
Right.
Then we'll get into an Ontario family, the Bosdale operation. That waited 11 years, a full decade, and then some for their second. Excellent cow classification. Just think about showing up to the barn every single day for 11 years knowing you haven't hit that target yet.
And then there's the story of a Wisconsin daughter, Michaela McGee, who showed the kind of courage that, it changes balance sheets forever. She told her family, in an industry that's just obsessed with getting bigger.
Always bigger.
To milk 200 fewer cows, all for the sake of efficiency and for their people.
3 completely different operations, 3 totally unique conflicts, but somehow they all converge on this one single unifying truth they all discovered. And that truth, I hope, really lands with you, whether you milk 3 cows or 3,000. It's a message that says what you believe in is more valuable than what the system, currently rewards. Okay, let's dive into that. I think we have to start at the moment of highest possible stakes, just profound, almost unbearable tension. We need to set the scene. It's the Super Bowl of dairy cattle, World Dairy Expo in Madison, Wisconsin. The date is October 3rd, 2025.
The whole world is watching. This is it. This is where champions are made, where reputations are cemented, and where a lifetime of work can either, pay off in this spectacular way or just crash entirely. It's electric.
Exactly. And sitting there watching the senior champion selection unfold is Michael Lovich of Holsteins. Now, to really get this, you need to know where Michael operates.
Yeah, this is key.
It's a 72-cow tie stall operation in Saskatchewan, Canada, a place that's, and I'm quoting here, 3 hours from anywhere most people have heard of.
Right. So this is not some industrial giant. This is a focused family-scale breeder.
And this man, who is literally on the verge of making Holstein history, is trembling. Michael is so keyed up, so anxious, so overwhelmed by this one moment that he cannot hold his phone steady enough to capture what's about to happen.
Can you just picture that?
Think about the paradox of that. I mean, this is a guy who already had the nerve to pull off a World Dairy Expo Grand Champion a decade earlier, back in 2015 with another incredible cow, Katricia.
He's been there before.
He has. So if anyone should be calm, collected, and ready for this, it should be the guy who's already done it, who has the banner to prove it.
And that's exactly what makes the trembling so powerful. It's not the shaking of a rookie.
No.
It's the anxiety, the hope, the sheer weight of knowing just how rare this moment is and how fast it can be snatched away from you. It's the fear of hope. He knows what the pinnacle feels like, and that climb back up, even for a second time, is agonizing. He's been living and breathing this for 10 years.
And those stakes, they weren't just in the ring. They reached all the way back to their farm in rural Saskatchewan. His wife, Jessica, she was back home and had given up even pretending to eat lunch. She couldn't swallow a thing.
Wow.
And their 3 daughters, Riata, Renelle, and Raylan, they were all huddled around phone screens in the school parking lot. They got special permission to skip class for this.
I love that line from the source material. It's one of those emotional anchors that just sticks with you.
Some things matter more than algebra.
Yes. That tells you everything, right? It tells you exactly what kind of devotion this family has. This wasn't just a business opportunity. This was the peak of a family mission.
But what really speaks to that weathered farmer's perspective, that deep knowledge of how quickly hope can just turn to dust, is Michael's reaction when things started looking good.
He got tapped on the shoulder.
Right.
Asked if he was happy about being pulled into the top lineup.
And he didn't allow himself that joy. Not yet. He just said, nope, not until we're in the final lineup. There's no sitting down until he does his reasons and we get the nod for first place.
That is the voice of someone who has seen the rug pulled out from under them.
Oh, completely.
That's the voice of deep, painful experience that knows you cannot celebrate until the final word is spoken. He was literally holding his breath against the possibility of just utter devastation, protecting his heart until the absolute last second.
But the devastation never came. The judge, Aaron Eaton, pointed to the cow, Kandy Cane, and he delivered this quote that it immediately became famous.
When she came in the ring, it was game over.
Game over. And with that single moment, the Lovichs achieved something that just defies all modern statistics.
It is truly historic. They became the first and only breeders in Holstein history to produce 2 different World Dairy Expo Holstein Grand Champions.
And they did it from a small 72-cow tie-stall barn in Saskatchewan.
Can we just sit with that size difference for a minute?
We have to.
When you look at the scale of the operations that usually get titles like this, I mean, the massive facilities, the sophisticated embryo programs, the global marketing budgets, the Lovich achievement is just pure validation for the small, focused breeder. It shows conviction, and the eye can still beat scale and budget.
It's a complete validation of their intensely focused, low-tech, high-conviction approach to breeding. They are all about quality over quantity. And they prioritize that deep, intimate knowledge of their herd over all the statistical noise out there.
And this is where the story gets really, really good. The origin of Kandy Cane.
Right.
She wasn't some genomic superstar or a highly touted embryo package they bought for 6 figures. She was, as Jessica Lovich laughed, she was always that cow.
And every single person listening to this knows that cow.
Oh, yeah. The stubborn one. The ornery heifer that fights you every single day. The one that makes you question your life choices when you're trying to move her down the alley.
She tests your patience daily. The Lovich's own daughters, who had the pick of the whole herd, they passed her over for what they thought were more promising animals. They actually assigned her as a 4-H project calf to a local town kid.
How close did they come to letting history walk right out the door? I mean, selling the future world grand champion as a 4-H calf to a neighbor. That is a nightmare scenario for a breeder.
Incredibly close. And if it wasn't for an outside voice of experience, it would have happened. The turning point came when Jessica's dad saw Kandy Cane.
Okay.
She was boarding at his place in Alberta, and he spotted her out on pasture. And even though she was immature, he saw the deep body, the structure, the capacity. He saw the potential that maybe the daily aggravation in the barn had sort of obscured.
It took an external expert eye to cut through all that frustration.
Exactly. And the way his eyes lit up when he asked Jessica about buying the heifer, that told her everything. He was so impressed, he tried to buy her himself. And that immediately signaled to Jessica that she had to bring her home. That decision, that gut feeling from a voice of deep experience, it forced her hand, and it saved their history. What a lesson in trusting the eye over daily frustration.
I just find it amazing that a cow that would become the world grand champion was nearly sold off as a routine 4-H project calf, just because she was a little bit difficult in the barn.
It fundamentally challenges the idea that the best animals are always the easiest to manage.
It proves that sometimes the cattle that test your patience the most, they're the ones destined for history. They force you to pay attention. And that whole idea, that conviction, it flows directly into their breeding philosophy, which is just fiercely independent of industry trends.
Well, when Michael was asked about modern tools, his response was famously blunt.
Genomics. What are those?
Right.
That's become their mantra, hasn't it? But we should probably unpack the technical gravity of that stance for our audience. It's not just a cute quote. It's a radical, calculated position.
So what does that mean when you're looking at a pedigree?
Michael's primary focus is cow families. Number one, he stated it very clearly. If he doesn't like the cow family a bull comes from, they will not use him. Doesn't matter what the index numbers say. Specifically, he avoids bulls that are out of 3 unscored dams. And that's important.
Why? because that depth of pedigree is the only real insurance you have when you're focusing on type and conformation.
Precisely. If a bull's dam and his granddam and his great-granddam haven't been scored, you have zero evidence that that bull is a consistent transmitter of functional type. You're just relying purely on a statistical prediction.
Which is too much risk for someone like him.
Way too much risk. For a farmer like Michael, who is breeding for the show ring and functional excellence, he needs proven results, or at least a proven lineage, not just speculation. It's a radical rejection of the dominant industry trend. They are trusting what they see in the barn far, far more than what they read on a screen.
But of course, there is this profound, often heartbreaking cost to chasing this kind of excellence, and that's the part that brings it all back down to earth, the cost of that banner.
The post-win reality check is, it's brutal. The morning after this historic victory, the day after the highest high they could possibly achieve, Jessica and the girls were back in the tie stall barn at 5 a.m., milking the same 72 cows.
The world changes outside the barn, but inside.
Inside, the routine is eternal. And here is the painful truth about the economics of excellence. The Lovichs bred Holstein history twice, but neither grand champion banner hangs on their farm. Kandy Cane's banner went to the owners in New York. The 2015 winner, Katricia's, hangs at Milk Source Genetics.
That's the deep cut for the small breeder, isn't it? You have to sell your best just to keep the operation solvent.
It's a necessary choice. Sometimes you sell the cow you love the most just to keep the lights on and keep the whole operation going to make sure that the next generation of great cattle can even be born. That's the part of the story the industry doesn't always tell. That chasing excellence often means sacrificing the physical proof of it.
But Michael and Jessica, they've clearly made their peace with it. They know the real legacy isn't the physical banner. It's the love home name.
Yeah.
That's what will endure in the pedigrees, long after any ribbon has faded or a banner is hanging in a different state. Breeding great cattle is its own reward, and that name in the pedigree, that's what truly matters. It validates their conviction.
And that legacy is already being carried forward by the next generation, which is maybe the greatest achievement of all.
Tell us about the three daughters, Riata, Renelle, and Raylan.
They've been completely immersed in this life. Jessica said they've been coming to shows since they were born, sleeping on hay bales for 14, 16 years.
They know the sacrifice.
You know the exhaustion. This isn't theoretical dairy education for them. This is real-world commitment that they're actively choosing. Riata, she's planning to be the farm vet, bringing that medical expertise back. Renelle's going to handle the cropping, focusing on the feed side. And Raylan... I love this. Showing that incredible farm kid confidence.
Yeah.
Has already declared herself the future farm manager because she knows all the cows already.
That certainty, that innate knowledge of the herd. They are learning dairy in the cold, the manure, the exhaustion, and the occasional terrifying high of the show ring. And yet they are choosing this life.
It speaks volumes about the conviction their parents have instilled in them. It's a legacy built on the eye, not the index.
It is. And that intense conviction, it leads us perfectly into our second story, a story about a completely different kind of excellence, one built not on a dramatic lightning strike, but on a long, persistent, almost painful grind.
So we move from the spectacular flash of lightning, a two-time World Dairy Expo champion, to the profound, slow burn of patience.
Yes, let's shift our energy to Bosdale Farms in Ontario. The Lovich story took 10 years to repeat the magic. The Bosdale story took 11 years just to validate the idea. And the timeline here is, it's genuinely shocking.
We should just lay it out, because this is where the psychological cost of dairy farming really comes into focus. The Boss family classified their first herd in 1976. They had 90 cows in the barn, 90 cows they believed in, and they got 0. Excellent classifications.
0. That's the first gut punch. They keep going.
They keep going. 4 years later, November 7, 1980, they finally get their first EX cow.
Huge milestone.
Huge. Validation. You feel like you've turned the corner. You celebrate. You feel like, okay, here we go. The program is working.
But then the universe just went silent. They got their second excellent classification on July 23, 1991.
11 years.
Yeah.
I really need our listeners to absorb that. 11 years between their first and second excellent classification. Most businesses measure success in quarters. Most farms are looking for validation year to year. This family showed up for a full decade, and then some, without visible, measurable progress toward the standard they had set for themselves.
How do you do that? How do you show up every day for a decade without that visible progress? You walk into the barn, you see those cows, you keep breeding with the same vision, you keep paying the bills, and the classification sheets keep coming back without that EX grade. Late at night, you have to be wondering if you're fooling yourself. You have to fight that urge to quit or to change direction entirely, to chase the genomic flavor of the month or abandon type for pure volume.
And that's what makes their perseverance so profound. They didn't quit. They didn't panic and change direction. They just called it Tuesday and Wednesday and the 4,015 days that followed, and they held on to their initial vision.
What allowed them to hold that vision so tightly for so long?
It was a simple philosophy, disarmingly simple. Life is too short to milk ugly cows.
Now, on the surface, that sounds like a witty joke about confirmation standards, right? But when you look at the commitment it takes to live by that for 11 years without a reward, what's really underneath that saying?
It's a profound commitment to functional type and longevity. The ugly cow is often the one who struggles with feet and legs, has less capacity, is harder to manage, requires more vet intervention. So their philosophy isn't just about aesthetics. It's about choosing to work with animals that meet a higher standard of functional type. Cows that bring you joy in the barn because they're efficient and healthy and durable.
That vision was their anchor. It reflected this deep belief in the kind of animal they were building, even when the classification sheets, the industry's squawboard, refused to reflect it for an entire generation.
And that relentless commitment, it paid off.
Yeah.
Today, the statistics are just staggering, and they're all built on that bedrock of patience. Bosdale Farms has 415 excellent classified cows, the most in all of Canada.
And 3 master breeder shields. For those who are less familiar with the Canadian system, can you explain the significance of that?
Yeah, the Master Breeder Shield isn't just an award. It's a testament to sustained generational excellence in breeding. It recognizes operations that have consistently bred cattle of high quality, longevity, and production efficiency, generation after generation.
So getting 3.
To earn 3 shields, you have to prove that the excellence isn't a fluke, that it's engineered deep into the cow families you've developed. It's the highest honor for a breeder, and it confirms that their 11-year wait was the foundation of an eventual dynasty.
And their approach to technology, it really echoes the Lovichs' conviction, doesn't it? They acknowledge genomics, but they prioritize proven long-term results.
Absolutely. They stressed that while genomic testing provides a baseline, a much higher degree of reliability comes from truly knowing and understanding your individual cows, knowing how cow families and bulls transmit, and using proven numbers to pinpoint your sire selection. They're looking for reliability and consistency, not just the fastest jump in the index.
Their advice to younger breeders is beautiful in its simplicity. Stay current, always using the best proven bulls. Nothing should override good common cow sense with proven cow families.
That common cow sense is the recurring theme. It connects the Boss family, who needed 11 years to prove their point, with the Lovich, who bred 2 champions from a 72-cow herd. The reward, they say, is that when every new calf has the opportunity to become your next star brood cow or lifetime production cow, farming stops being just a job. It becomes a passion. You look forward to going to work.
Now, we need to talk about the profound personal loss that shaped their philosophy and deepened their commitment to stewardship, which really transcends any cattle achievements. The Boss family experienced the tragic loss of their son and brother, Timothy, on May 1st, 2020.
This is deeply personal, and it's a moment we need to respect. The family lives by their faith, and it is clear that this loss reinforced for them how precious life is, that every day is a gift that must be stewarded wisely. The impact of that grief shaped how they define success and legacy far beyond the show ring.
And when they talk about how they want Bosdale to be remembered, it's not just about the 415 excellent cows or the 3 master breeder shields. It's about something far more meaningful, and it gives context to that long wait.
Their hope is that their achievements reflect their commitment to hard work, the importance of family, and their devotion to serving God through the wise stewardship of the animals, the land, and the people they've been given. The achievement is just the visible proof of that deeper commitment. And that transforms the work. It means the 11-year wait wasn't a punishment. It was simply a necessary period of persistence under a higher calling.
Before we move on from Bosdale, we have to mention one anecdote that just perfectly illustrates that blend of faith, eye, and conviction.
Oh, the story of Counselor.
The cow named Counselor. It's a perfect illustration of seeing opportunity where most people would only see loss.
Right. So Counselor was this exciting young 2-year-old, a cow with immense potential. But unfortunately, she had to be culled open because of a health issue. A normal operation, facing the expense and challenge of culling a cow, might just write her off and send her out. That's just standard business practice.
But Ed Boz and the family, they saw potential that was literally walking out the door.
They decided to take one single flush before she left the herd. Now, if you think about the calculus there, they had already decided she was leaving. Taking that flush involves expense, labor, and time for an animal that has already failed to perform to herd standards. Most people would just skip that step and accept the loss.
But that single small decision, it changed everything.
It did. That one flush resulted in Bosdale Stardust Portrait, which became the second dam of outside portrait. That lineage, stemming from that one final chance they took on a cow, destined for culling. That's why the entire massive portrait cow family is such a big part of Bosdale today. Without that conviction, that belief that there might still be value there, that entire lineage would not exist on their farm.
It wasn't luck. It was paying attention. It was having the conviction to invest in a cow that was walking out the door and just sticking to that principle of common cow sense.
And what's so fascinating is that now we have two families, the Lovich and the Bosses, who have achieved staggering success from entirely different timelines. A lightning strike versus a decade-long siege. But they share that foundational conviction. They trust their eye over the index. They prioritize the cow family over the hype.
And if you're listening right now, maybe in the quiet of the milk house at 5 a.m., and you're in year 3 of what might be an 11-year wait, or you just sold your Kandy Cane to pay the bills, you need to know this. The Boss family didn't know they'd end up with 415 excellent cows when they were staring at that single EX classification in 1980. They just kept showing up.
That is the core lesson. Faith isn't knowing how the story ends. It's showing up anyway, driven by a philosophy that transcends the immediate scoreboard. And that brings us perfectly to our third story, one where the courage wasn't about genetics, but about radical efficiency and the human element in a large-scale operation.
Let's head 3,000 miles west to John Deere Farm in Wisconsin, where courage was tested not in the show ring, but at the kitchen table with the family balance sheet. This is the story of Michaela McGee.
Michaela came home about 12 years ago after graduating from River Falls with her dairy science degree. And she came home to a foreign landscape. The farm she grew up on had scaled dramatically. We're talking 2 large herringbone parlors running 247, over 30 employees, and 1,550 cows. It was a massive corporate machine, the type of operation that defines modern, maximalist dairy farming.
And she described feeling like an outsider, even on the farm where she grew up. That's a powerful admission.
It carries so much weight for anyone who grew up on a family farm, went off to college, and came back to find the scale and the culture had changed so dramatically. She was standing in a place she knew by heart, but the sheer size and complexity made her feel like a stranger, like she had to fight to find her role. It just highlights that often overlooked struggle of the next generation coming home.
But because she felt like an outsider, she had the necessary distance to see what the family, who were so immersed in the daily grind of running 2 parlors, 247, just couldn't see. Her key observation was simple. They were working harder than they needed to for the results they were getting. High inputs, high labor, 1,550 cows. It was inefficient. The profitability just wasn't matching the immense effort.
And this is where the conversation got difficult. She had the incredible courage to suggest a completely counterintuitive business strategy in an industry where expansion is gospel.
She suggested they milk fewer cows.
Can you just imagine the silence at that kitchen table when that suggestion dropped? You want us to do what? We built this operation on the principle of get bigger, get out, and you want to shrink it. That flies in the face of the last 20 years of industry dogma.
It is a massive risk, emotionally and financially, to suggest contraction to a family that built its success on expansion. But Michaela had a critical advantage.
Her grandfather.
Her grandfather. While he was prone to wanting to expand, he was also very analytically minded. He valued data and proof.
So she didn't just bring an emotional appeal. She turned her vision into a cold, hard spreadsheet.
Precisely. She and the CFO, Chris Van Summeren, they ran the numbers meticulously. They took the previous year's financials and created a mock-up of what would happen if they cut 200 cows. They analyzed the impact on labor, feed costs, maintenance, milk income. They weren't just guessing. They were modeling the economic reality. And when the math came together, the number was clear. 1,350 cows. That was the optimal number, the most profitable and sustainable scale, not the maximal number they could physically push through the parlors.
And the results? Within 18 months of this right sizing, as the CFO called it, they were staggering.
Staggering is an understatement. They were shipping nearly the same volume of milk with 200 fewer cows.
Same production, but dramatically better margins because they eliminated the least efficient animals and optimized the flow.
Let's break down the metrics, because this is where the analytical depth really proves the point.
The human efficiency gains were breathtaking. Daily milking hours dropped from 144 to 18. An 87.5% reduction in the constant grinding labor required to keep two parlors running 24/7. When you reduce that kind of relentless workload, staff are happier, turnover dropped.
And then the financial impact?
Labor costs fell by $900,000 annually. And when you factor in the feed savings, the reduced vet costs, all the overall efficiency gains, their net profit increased by $1.2 million annually.
Wow.
It just proves the philosophical point that the small breeder intuition, quality over quantity, can be translated to the massive corporate scale. Optimal beats maximal every single time. Sometimes the bravest step forward is to take 2 steps back in size.
But here's where Michaela's story really transcends the balance sheet and connects back to the human element we keep tracing through all these stories. Her deep motivation wasn't just profit, it was responsibility to her team.
Yeah, she articulated this really powerful insight that a coworker or a boss has an equal influence on a person's day as their spouse. And she internalized that tremendous responsibility. She didn't want the farm's demanding scale to ruin her employees' quality of life. Her goal was personal. She said, I don't want to be the reason somebody has a bad day.
And she put action behind that philosophy. She built a kitchen above their new rotary parlor to cook lunch for her team every day. That's such a deeply rooted act of service. It transforms a corporate structure into something more familial.
It is. She laughed and said, maybe cooking is like my love language. But the effect is clear. It makes their meetings more family style, it takes the edge off, and it creates this genuine sense of community in an operation that could easily feel sterile and corporate. In an industry that is struggling so profoundly with labor retention, Michaela figured out that investing in the people matters just as much as investing in the parlor equipment.
Her father's guiding philosophy for John DeFarm, it just sums the story up perfectly. Be the best, whatever size you are, dairy.
Right.
That means being the best steward of your finances, your people, and your cows. It means excellence isn't defined by the size of the milking string, but by the size of the margin and the quality of the life you offer your team.
And that's it. That is the common thread we were looking for. The Lovichs, the Boss family, and Michaela McGee. They all prioritized conviction, a deeply held belief in their specific functional vision over simply chasing the industry's default calculus of maximal expansion or genomic hype.
Let's just sit with that for a moment as we sort of synthesize all this. We have 3 vastly different operations facing different challenges. Breeding world champions on a small scale, maintaining type standards over a decade, and optimizing a large corporate dairy. But they all share this fundamental truth: conviction over calculus.
They absolutely did. Michael Lovich trusted what he saw in the barn, the cow family, the functional type, the depth of the pedigree over what the screen told him about genomic indices. He said, if I don't like the cow family, I'm out. Didn't matter what the TPI was.
And the Boss's family, they focused on breeding cows they believed in, cows that were functionally beautiful. They walked that 11-year path of faith, ignoring the speed demands of the industry because they knew their chosen path led to a superior, more durable cow. They chose longevity over immediate gratification.
And Michaela McGee, she trusted her detailed efficiency analysis. She proved that right sizing was more profitable than continued maximalist expansion. She rejected the dogma that bigger is always better, and she validated the conviction that optimal is always best.
They all focused on functional cows. Michael Lovich wants cows they enjoy milking, cows that can have fun at shows and don't require high maintenance. The Boss family wants cows that reflect a high standard of stewardship and longevity. And Michaela wanted a herd size that maximized profit without crushing her employees with 144 hours of daily milking.
The cow has to function within the system, whether that system is a 72-cow tie stall or a 1,350-cow rotary. And this leads directly to the second great unifying truth, the walk we all take. Excellence required walking, from yesterday's assumptions to tomorrow's reality. And that walk is defined by the waiting, the doubt, and the patience required.
Bossdale walking 11 years between victories. I mean, the breakthrough only came after they had endured years of quiet, necessary suffering and doubt. The Lovich breeding a champion out of an ornery heifer that tested their patience every single day, nearly selling her off.
And Michaela suggesting a radical business plan that went against the expansion dogma of the entire industry, putting her reputation on the line at the kitchen table.
It highlights that profound human struggle. The human element is at the breakthrough, the moment of validation, whether it's the $1.2 million profit increase or the second grand champion banner, it so often arrives right after the moment of deepest doubt. It wasn't some cosmic guarantee of success, it was simply the reward for the people who refused to quit, who kept doing the work even when the evidence wasn't there.
Which brings us to perhaps the most moving point and the real essence of these stories.
Faith as a verb, not a feeling.
That's exactly right. The Lovichs didn't have a feeling that they would breed another grand champion. They had the conviction to keep breeding the cows they believed in, regardless of the index scores or the current hype, knowing that eventually the market would catch up to their eye.
The Bass family kept showing up for a decade, driven by their faith and their commitment to stewardship, trusting that their focus on the durable, functional cow would eventually justify itself.
And Michaela McGee, she didn't just feel like they should shrink. She enacted that conviction. She did the painful work of running the numbers and selling the cows needed to achieve a more sustainable, profitable reality.
It wasn't about the victory, was it? The victory was just proof that the conviction was justified. The point was Michael Lovich trusting his eye in the ring, even while his hands were trembling. The point was the Boss family showing up for 11 years when no one was watching. The point was Michaela prioritizing her people and the financial health of the operation over the industry's obsession with scale. The belief itself, that courage to hold on to that singular vision when everyone else is chasing something shinier, that's the real victory here.
And that is the message we want to leave with you. If you are listening to this right now, maybe it is 5 a.m., maybe you're sitting in the milk house and you're wondering if what you're building really matters. Maybe you are in year 5 of a struggle and you're looking at the input costs or the classification sheets and you're questioning your entire path.
These families who struggled with trembling hands at the biggest show in the world, who endured decade-long waits for validation, and who made painful, counterintuitive financial decisions, they would tell you the scoreboard hasn't finished counting yet. You might be in year 8 of your 11-year wait. Keep breeding the cows you believe in. Keep focusing on the functional cow. Keep trusting what you see in the barn, even when the screen tells you something different, or when the scale demands you go bigger. Trust optimal over maximal.
Your commitment is what defines the value long before the banner or the balance sheet catches up.
This has been The Deep Dive, powered by the Bullvine. For the full article that includes the complete interviews with the Lovich, Boss, and McGee families, and all the specific data points we discussed, head over to www.thebullvine.com. Subscribe wherever you listen. We'll be back tomorrow with another deep dive. Until then, what you're building matters, whether anyone else sees it or not.